Is the audio coming through okay at that end?
Thank you very much. I welcome everybody. I declare the meeting open. Welcome everybody in attendance. I usually announce that we're live streaming, but there are no members of the public in attendance as yet. And due to technical issues, we won't be able to prepare minutes live and visible, as councillors probably know tonight, but you'll still be able to hopefully see the agenda on your screen. Councillor Barry Winmar is participating in the meeting via a teleconference due to him unfortunately testing positive recently to COVID. So very good of you to be able to participate, Councillor Winmar. And every time I look at your vacant seat, it will remind me to ask you for your vote on these matters. But before we commence the meeting proper, I would like to propose we undertake a minute's silence, given the significance of the passing of our Sovereign Queen Elizabeth II on Friday. It's only fit and proper we hold a minute's silence before the commencement of this council meeting to reflect and thank Her Majesty for incredible public service over her past 70-year reign. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to call upon Councillor Barry Winmar to present the Welcome to Country.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the land of the Noongar people and pay my respects to elders past and present. Ngalak yining kurang kurang ngalak noich nija Noongar buja. Noongar murt jerpen yining nija ngalak kwabrak Noongar buja kurang. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Ngala jerpen mama buja ngala bala mama kwak ngala kwat jerpen. Ninya ngala mai yining Noongar buja. We respect the earth, our mother, and understand that we belong to her. She does not belong to us. In all her beauty, we find comfort, well-being, and life that creates a home for everyone that has become a keeper of Noongar country. Look, listen, understand, and embrace all the elements of Noongar country that is forever our home. Kai wanju ngan bari winma wajak baladong maman. Ngan kor jerpen nunuk nija Noongar buja. Dajli wang in noich Noongar buja. Hello and welcome. My name is Barry Winmar. I'm a Wajak Baladong man. My heart is happy as we're gathered on Noongar country and speaking here on Noongar country. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winmar, and I'd also like to acknowledge that we meet here on the land of the Noongar people and pay our respects to elders past, present, and any future emerging leaders. Thank you. Sorry about that, Councillor Brown. Call upon Councillor Brown to read the dedication.
Thank you. May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to consider all matters before us with due consideration, integrity, and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interest of the greater Kwinana community that we serve. Thank you.
Attendance, apologies, leave of absence previously approved. They're nil. Public question time. There are no members of the public in attendance at this moment. There's nothing on item 6.1, 6.2, and on item 6.3 we've had a request for deputation in relation to item 17.1. In fact, we've had two requests. The first deputation is from a Mr. Daniel Pryor, Town Planner for Axicom, who are the proponents for the tower. As Mr Pryor is in the Eastern States and unable to attend tonight's meeting, he has asked that I read the deputation. It should also be noted the elected members have all received a copy of the deputation statement prior to this meeting. So just bear with me. Axicom, together with Vodafone and Optus, have proposed a new telecommunication facility at 9 Woolcott Road in Wellard. The facility will significantly improve 3G and 4G mobile service and establish 5G services to Wellard and the surrounding areas. This project responds to an established need. Many parts of Wellard and surrounding areas have poor to non-existent mobile services. The proposed facility will help to rectify these problems. No co-location options are available. There are no existing mobile-based stations within approximately 2.6 kilometres of this site. The closest existing telecommunication facility supporting both carriers is a 44-metre steel lattice tower located approximately 2.64 kilometres northwest of the proposed new site. While this candidate was investigated for possible upgrading, it was unable to service the area of Wellard to the southeast due to the geographical separation, and there is an addendum on that was sent through to have a look at. The next point was the project will comply with the Australian Government standards, safety standards, and will not pose a risk to community safety. So the Australian Government advised that mobile technology has no long or short-term health effects. The Australian Government enforces a strict safety standard limiting the amount of EME produced by a base station. The Government advises that sites which operate at 100% of the limit are still considered safe. Maximum EME levels produced by the proposed facility will represent less than 3% of the levels allowed by the Australian safety standards. This facility will operate at a maximum EME level representing 2.29% of the standard. The next point is visual and environmental impact has been minimised as far as practical. Telecommunication facilities by their nature must be tall enough to protrude above the surrounding environment to function. Additionally, to provide coverage, telecommunication facilities must also be located in the vicinity of the areas they intend to cover. Whilst we acknowledge the facility will be visible from a number of perspectives within the surrounding area, we've taken steps to minimise the visual impact of the site as far as possible. We believe that placing the facility in a rural area is a better option than deploying it closer to the residential areas. Additionally, the surrounding vegetation will also help to screen the facility from view. As part of the previous request for further information, RFI, several photo montages were provided to Council to demonstrate visual impact from surrounding vantage points, which I've enclosed again for your reference today. Proposed condition of consent. We note that Council is proposing to include a number of development conditions largely relating to construction management and site rehabilitation. Whilst Axicom are largely supportive of these conditions, Condition 3, which notes, within 90 days of the date of this approval, the landowner shall undertake planting of screen landscaping from the roadway and adjoining lots to the satisfaction of the City of Kwinana. As Axicom still needs to complete all of our applicable pre-building documents, i.e. for construction drawings, construction certificates, construction management plans, etc., which will take longer than 90 days, and as we already proposed landscaping in the revised proposed plans submitted to Council on the 29th of July 2022, we request this condition be amended to read, prior to completion of the development, planting of screening landscaping be undertaken in accordance with the approved plans to the satisfaction of the City of Kwinana. We note that Council officers have recommended approval, and we believe that approval of this project is warranted. We thank Council for hearing the application and trust these matters will be taken into account in the decision. Thank you. The second request for deputation was actually sent in via an email from a Mr. Stephen Thompson of 200 Mortimer Road, Wellard. it was noted in the email that Mr Thompson and his wife would be running late to the meeting due to work commitments, and he is not here at the moment, so I will read out the email, and I understand it's been circulated in any event. We live at 200 Mortimer Road, Wellard. Our house backs onto 9 Woolcott Road. This tower, DA 10328, will be directly in our view and will be the ultimate eyesore. Plus 24/7 exposure to electromagnetic radiation and its impact on children's and our health. Massive impact on wildlife and fauna. It's a magnet for lightning strikes and could cause bushfires close to homes, impacting land values lost in the area. This will make land sales drop. We're not happy with this proposal. We were offered this tower on our block a couple of years ago and we turned it down for these reasons. Please don't allow this to go ahead. Regards, Steve Thompson. So there are no further deputations. Sorry for all those listening at home for all the crinkling of paper. So onto the agenda. 7.1 is confirmation of minutes of our ordinary meeting held on the 24th of August 2022. Are there any issues with those minutes? Or if not, could we have somebody move that way? Thank you. Moved Councillor Estwood, seconded Councillor Rouse. Any councillors wish to speak on those minutes? If not, I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried.
Vote in favour, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've arranged for Deputy Mayor to hold up a card to remind us to ask for your vote, but he failed on his first chore there. Item 8, declarations of interest. Does anybody have a declaration of interest? No, thank you. Any item 9, requests for leave of absence? Nil. Item 10, nothing. There is nothing at 11, 12, 13 in block reports. I'll wait till item 15 for those. And item 14, nil. So item 15, 15.1, 2 and 3, I'm happy to move those in block unless anybody wishes to speak on any of those specific reports, in which way I'll then withdraw that item. Are there any questions of the officers, first of all, in relation to any of those reports? Would somebody like to move on block? Okay, moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor S. Wood. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on the item? Thank you. Councillor Wood, anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? And Councillor Winmar?
Yeah, in favour, Your Worship.
Thank you. Against? So carried. Item 16, 16.1 is the City of Kwinana Draft Local Biodiversity Strategy. 15.4. Sorry, I haven't got that. Hang on. Excuse me for a moment. I didn't put that in. I've got that later on in the... Okay. No. Sorry, I've got it as 16.1, City of Kwinana Draft Local Biodiversity Strategy. Are there any questions of the officers in relation to this item? I have a question. It may very well have been answered in the body of the report, but there is a couple of confidential attachments showing maps, and I was wondering why they were confidential.
Through you, Your Worship, the items, they were maps essentially that are provided to the city through the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. Those maps show threatened ecological communities, etc., and there's a agreement in place between the city and DBCA that those maps cannot be made publicly available because of the nature of the communities that are threatened. So the public document doesn't include those maps. What we have done is provided those maps to you as confidential attachments, so you know exactly what those maps refer to.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to commend the enormous effort in producing this report. Just perhaps a question on clarity. There's a couple of, there's an overall benchmark or a goal for 30%, I guess, conservation of existing nature or vegetation and whatnot. But there's a couple of areas pointed out where possibly may not be possible to achieve that 30% goal. So just to clarify, there would be other efforts, I guess, even if that 30% wasn't met of retention, but there's other efforts in play to improve environmental outcomes in those areas where the 30% couldn't be met.
Through you, Your Worship, that's correct. So the 30% is an industry standard, if you like, and in an ecological sense, 30% is what we strive to maintain as the lowest limit. So we'd like to exceed that in every instance, but of course history at this point in time has, and development, a whole range of factors has resulted in certain areas of our city and certain communities not being represented much lower than 30%. So we will be taking action obviously around areas that are dropping under the 30%. And looking at where the city's resources and activities can really focus. So the 30% just is a guide really around making sure we maintain that the biodiversity and the values within the city.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? We have a recommendation. Thank you. Oh, moved Councillor D. Wood. Oh, second Councillor Kearney. Councillor Wood, do you wish to speak on the item? Sorry, could you...
Excuse me for not getting up, it's a bit difficult. But the report is very thorough.
Thank you.
Compliments.
Councillor Kearney. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Councillor
In favour, Your
Winmar.
Worship.
Thank you.
In favour, Your Worship. Thank you.
Against? So carried. I was going to actually move it so I could speak, but it's been dealt with. I'd just also like to thank the officers for their hard work in preparing the draft strategy for consideration of council. Certainly endorse the strategy for public comment and note and hope that we do receive positive and supportive feedback on this very important strategy that we're really needing this significant piece of work which aims to identify and protect what natural areas and environments we have biodiversity that we are so fortunate to have here in the city of Kwinana. So thank you for that. 17.1 is a development application, telecommunications tower, lot 2, bracket 9, Woolcott Road, Wellard. Are there any questions of the officers? Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. As part of the community feedback exercise on this item, I think there was some suggestion or request to consider an alternative colour for the telecommunication tower.
Green.
Green. Could we just get some insight into why the city, I guess, didn't necessarily support that piece of feedback?
We've had it before, yeah.
Through Your Worship, we actually had a conversation with the proponent today around the colours, and there was a suggestion that olive green might have been an option. The applicant is proposing neutral colours, colours that don't stand out, and one option that they suggested was, well, maybe olive green, but the issue with that is that at different times of the day that can stand out. It can stand out as a black background. Their suggestion is, and their intent was to develop it as more of a steel colour, a steel grey colour, and their experience on that is that that look people don't tend to necessarily see that as much. You see that, people see that a lot with power poles and lights through streets. So it's not something that the eye catches necessarily. So their experience is that a sort of a neutral steel colour is a better colour than a greeny colour, which can, say, in the morning or at dusk, stand out.
Thank you. Did you have a supplementary question or?
Perhaps it's an additional question, but thank you. Perhaps just a point of clarity. In terms of the placement and the height of the telecommunication tower, this is consistent with other facilities of this nature in the city?
Through your worship, we do have mobile towers in different locations across the city. A number of them are in special rural areas. There is one that's in Willow Village, that's in the townside area. But yeah, it's reasonably consistent with what we have elsewhere. We have a number of towers. One tower comes to mind in the Wandy area. That's quite a high tower, and so this isn't inconsistent with what we have elsewhere.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we do have a recommendation. Move Deputy Mayor. Seconded Councillor Rouse. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on the item?
Just briefly, Your Worship, I certainly know a number of residents around Emerald Park and Sunrise that have experienced.
Oh, I do beg your pardon, there was an amendment. So would you be happy to move this with the amendment?
I have no idea what the amendment is, Your Worship.
I thought sorry. It was the one that was requested by the proponent that prior to the completion of the development, planning of the screen landscaping shall be undertaken in accordance with the approved plans to the
I
satisfaction.
have no issue with that, Your Worship.
Don't need an explanation on
No,
it?
that's
Happy
fine.
to move it with the amendment, thank you. And the same with the seconder, thank you.
We good? Yep. Yeah, the residents in and around that general vicinity, I'm sure will be extremely happy that the tower is actually going. I understand that there is one particular household that aren't necessarily, but the fact that there is no phone reception in many parts of that part of the city, and especially nowadays where most households don't have a landline, it certainly can be a possible issue when it comes to emergencies if someone can't actually get a phone reception inside their house. And I know a number of people, certainly within Emerald Park, that experience that every day. So I support this, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse? Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Councillor Winmar? Councillor Winmar? Oh, he's on.
Yeah, in favour, Your Worship.
Thank you. Against? So carried. Thank you. Item 17.2 is proposed scheme amendment to number 163 to local planning scheme number 2, the removal of a 2% developer contribution plan administration fee, introduction of an estimated administration cost as per state planning policy 3.6 infrastructure contribution. Are there any questions of the officers? If not, we have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move that way? Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor D. Wood. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Wood. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against?
In favour.
Thank you. So carried. Item 18.1 is the appointment of voting delegates and proxy voting delegates on behalf of the City of Kwinana at the annual general meeting of the West Australian Local Government Association. Any questions on this item? Okay. So as we know, the AGM's coming up on the 3rd of October. I am attending. Are any other councillors attending? If you're not intending, then it's just to approve that I'll be the voting delegate. I think we get 2 votes. So,
I'm happy to be a proxy if something happens to you, Your Worship, and you can't attend, but I won't be attending.
Councillor Winmar, were you attending at all?
I'm available to attend, Your Worship. If the Deputy Mayor is happy to be a proxy.
Okay, so at the moment though, we've only got 1 councillor attending, and that's myself. And then there's a proxy if something happens, but are you...
What's the agenda, Your Worship?
No, I'm not sure what's on the agenda as yet. The agenda should be out. I can get that to you.
I'm happy to be the other delegate.
And,
I
yeah,
was the last time.
okay.
I think in the end it wasn't required, so that's fine.
All right. So if we could appoint myself and Deputy Mayor Feasy, is that okay with you, Councillor Winmar? Or unless you specifically
Yep,
wanted
happy
to
with that.
attend?
No, happy with that. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Therefore, I shall put this officer's recommendation to the vote. All in favour?
In favour, Your Worship.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you. Move Deputy Mayor. Seconded Councillor Rouse. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on this item at all? Councillor Rouse? Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? And Councillor Winmar?
Worship.
Thank you.
In favour, Your Worship.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 19. There's nothing on item 19, 20 or 21. Reports of elected members at item 22. Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Councillor D. Wood?
Sorry, Councillor Winmar.
Councillor Winmar?
Yeah, nothing to report, Your Worship, at this stage.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse? Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to start by paying my respects following the very sad news that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has passed away. In a world of constant change, she provided a source of stability, and throughout 70 years on the throne, she's inspired many, including here in the city of Kwinana. And just as a point of reflection, back in 2011, I was lucky enough to stand just metres away, actually, as Queen Elizabeth addressed crowds at the big Aussie barbecue event in the city of Perth as part of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, the largest event of its kind in Australia at the time. And I remember holding up my niece as the Queen spoke to the crowd, and it occurred to me recently how I never really imagined that my niece or any of the younger members of my family would actually grow up without the Queen as our head of state. She'd simply become timeless to many in our community, which I think is a real kudos to the legacy she leaves behind. May she rest in peace following an incredible era of public service. As for my elected members report, at the start of September, I was proud to work with the city to help host the 83rd Cockburn Sound Management Council meeting here in Kwinana, which brought together a large number of regional stakeholders, including sitting Cockburn Sound Management Council members and industry representatives, including WA Marine Science Institute, Woodside and Westport. I was excited to have the opportunity to deliver an opening address on behalf of the City of Kwinana, where I welcomed guests to our city and took them on a bit of a journey into our community's history, the old and the even older, our story so far, and the vision we're working towards, especially in regards to the environment locally and how it relates to the broader Cockburn Sound region. I communicated that right now, for the City of Kwinana, it's a time of growth, it's a time of reflection, and it's a time of significant opportunity for our residents and the broader community. I conveyed that the city takes great pride in working openly and proactively with neighbouring regions, industry partners and associations, and other levels of government to achieve positive environmental outcomes and to inform research and discourse in this space. And at this particular Cockburn Sound Management Council session, we received updates from the Westport project. We received updates on research from WAMSI and its partners. As a group, we discussed significant opportunities for data sharing. We ran through a number of environmental issues raised recently in the media and by members of the community, and Woodside provided a run-through of their H2O Perth or hydrogen project planned for the Rockingham and Kwinana industrial areas. The Cockburn Sound Management Council asked me to pass on their sincere thanks to the City of Kwinana for hosting the meeting and for the efforts it took to prepare for what was really a great example of passionate stakeholders coming together to share knowledge, solve problems, and work towards the best outcomes for our broader region. Sorry. Recently, I was also privileged to attend the Medina Resident Group's annual general meeting on behalf of Mayor Carol Adams and alongside Deputy Premier and Member for Kwinana, Roger Cook. It was fantastic to hear about the group's success over the past year, which included initiatives such as the Medina Community Festival, Medina Meets the Candidates event as part of the local government election, revegetation of McGowan and Quenda Parks, Medina Heritage Walk, and painting murals around the local shopping centre. I would also like to communicate the group's focus for the coming year as discussed at the AGM for consideration by this council and the city. This focus, as outlined by the group at the AGM, includes retaining the character of Medina, ensuring new developments fit the style of the suburb, more emphasis on the heritage status of Medina and the promotion of that status, working towards a positive outcome for the off-road area, including environmental considerations, changes to the car parking and introduction of seating under the trees at the local shopping precinct. They're also closely monitoring the state legislation around vaping shops and their locations around schools, and more community painting to brighten up Medina. I want to thank the Medina Resident Group for their warm welcome at the AGM, and they have asked that I pass on their thanks to the city for the range of support they've received to date, and they particularly commend the officers and the staff that they work with day to day. I also recently attended the monthly meeting of the Homestead Ridge Progress Association, where I was briefed on the outcome of recent surveys that were run in the local community around the use of Homestead Park and thoughts on road safety measures, including footpaths. This led to a fantastic reflection on what it meant to live in Homestead Ridge in 2022, including characteristics such as the rural in suburbia feel, the trees and greenery, the large blocks, the open fencing, and much more. This reflection will inform plans for more surveying of the local community to be passed on to the city, and in the interim, I will share the recent results with elected members and the city officers. Off the back of the recent survey results, the association have asked me to pass on their view that there is significant community appetite for a water tap and/or water fountain to complement the barbecue and other facilities at the local park, where comments were also raised around convenience and safety, especially on hot days. So among other initiatives, the association would like to work with the council and the city to explore the opportunity for this kind of facility. I really commend the group on their exercise in data collection to inform advocacy and the association's initiatives in the local area, and I look forward to continuing to engage in the Homestead Ridge Progress Association. I also asked everyone to look out for the details around their upcoming AGM, where they will unveil a number of absolutely awesome mosaics that will be placed around the ridge for members of the local community to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Just in relation to the water fountain at Homestead Park, you may have seen a post that I put up following some feedback from Mr. Elkins and the issues that we are having. I'll just, are you able to just briefly, so you can feed that back?
Yeah, through the Mayor, installing a water fountain is something we would like to do. The issue we have with that particular park is there's no water main running past the park, and the closest water main is actually quite a while away. We've measured that we can get through a nearby public laneway, but there's still about 180 metres of extension we need to do to bring the water main in, to bring a water supply in. We are getting that priced through a plumber just so that council can consider it, but that has been the barrier in the past, the cost of bringing water in because there's no nearby water main.
And I also understood as well, to get the water main there would be some significant vegetation that may be lost as a result. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Councillor Estwood.
Performed all those duties required of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kearney.
I just attended the for Women's Week the event at Medina Hall, which was really great. It was discussion on breast cancer, and then we had an aerobics class for seniors. So it was a lovely morning. The staff did a great job.
Great, thank you. There's no answers to questions which were taken on notice. Just a few mayoral announcements. I would also, just following on from our minute silence, and I know that Councillor Brown has probably said a lot of the things that I was intending to, but on behalf of the City of Kwinana elected members in our community, I would like to pass on our sincere condolences in the passing of the Queen Elizabeth II on February the 9th of September. Sorry, Friday 9th of September. Much has been written and said since Her Majesty's passing, and I would like to reiterate what an inspirational woman Queen Elizabeth has been to generations of people in her historic 70-year reign. I recall the then town of Kwinana was one of the few councils who actually planted an oak tree on Council Green to commemorate her 60th Jubilee. Actually, it would have been the town. and it would have been the city of Kwinana, and held a small garden party to commemorate this event. For those who are not aware, there's a plaque near a tree to mark this occasion and some wonderful memories for those who attended. And I do recall in particular Councillor Wood wearing his very English pith hat. There has been so much outpouring of grief from our community, especially our senior cohort, who many predominantly come from countries of the Commonwealth, and I'm pleased that the city was able to arrange for a book of condolence to be placed in our front counter for the period of her mourning. I'm aware from Mr Fisher that the library team is planning to hold a special display from the 23rd of September to the 30th of September, and that display will include photographs and memories of Queen Elizabeth II visiting Kwinana in 1954, which I found was quite amazing. I think she visited us, and at the time there was a polio outbreak, so she didn't actually meet with a lot of people, but at that time, of course, 1954, was only very few people, I suppose, and the comments that she got from the commentary back from the library were mainly from the industrial parts that she had visited. But part of the visit will be images and book display, commemorative portrait of the Queen Elizabeth as supplied by the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, and signage referring to people back to signing the commemorative book. There's also planned a children's colouring activity. So rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth II. Thank you for the incredible service above self for over 70 years. We now turn to the future, whilst remembering, acknowledging our past, and in doing so recognising our new sovereign, King Charles III. So just a few of the items, the events I've been to. Myself and Councillor Wood and the CEO and Councillor Wimmer attended the South Metropolitan Zone meeting. There was a couple of interesting presentations, and one was by Tiffany Allen, the CEO of Construction Training Fund, which I'd never heard of, but they collect a levy on all WA construction projects over $20,000, and those funds are used to support the construction industry to try and to help train new apprentices and trainees, as well as to cover the cost of additional skills training for building and construction workers in residential, civil, commercial and resource sector. And the organisation aims to promote construction as a career choice. They even provide entry-level pathways to the community, such as Try a Trade Day, scholarships and paraprofessional certificates. So that was quite interesting. And of the matters for decision that were put for the zone, the one most relevant to the city was in relation to the WELGA's advocacy position on the future management of the volunteer or our bushfire brigades. There were several primary recommendations which were endorsed by the zone and later by State Council last week at their meeting, with the final request being that the state government consider the appropriate operational model for state government management of bushfire brigades, which may include the establishment of independent rural fire services as recommended in the 2016 Ferguson report. I know at the zone meeting the City of Kwinana endeavoured to try and put through an amendment that there should be consideration of a rural brigade, and that should be dealt with differently than the city brigades, but that was not successful. But talking to many of the country brigades, it is going to be quite messy because several of the brigades already have memorandums of understanding with DFIS, and I think that's why it's important that the matter gets put back to the state government rather than individual local governments. With many of you, we attended the official opening of the city's operation building, the depot. And just like to thank everybody who was involved in that journey, in this much long-awaited and much-needed facility that will help continue with a raft of growing services that come from the depot for our community going forward. And while somebody said it did look like the new police station with its interesting colours, it is actually a really great open plan building and certainly being enjoyed by those working in it. I attended the Southern District's BMX State Series that was held in Medina at the BMX track. The track is looking absolutely fantastic. there was over 577 riders, which then extrapolates to parents, supporters, team members, etc. So the whole place was absolutely booming, and the youngest rider was 2 and the most senior was 72. So that was a really a great event for any of you that had the opportunity to pop down there. They're my main points, so I'm happy just to table the report as read, or happy to take questions from the floor or afterwards on that. And if there's nothing, we have 2 items of a confidential nature for which we will now go behind closed doors to deal with. Would somebody like to move that way? Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Wood. All in favour? Councillor Winmar? Against? Thank you. Is the recording off? bat recording. Thank you. We've had two behind closed doors confidential items that we've just dealt with. In relation to item 25.1, the write-off of a penalty interest, it was the council's recommendation, the officer's recommendation, is endorsed by council, that council write off the penalty interest on rate account 11091 for the 2016/2017 and 2017/2018 financial years. And in relation to item 25.2 that dealt with the Bright Futures Children's Service Review. Let's get the recommendation up. Thank you. Council endorsed and authorised the Chief Executive Officer to progress a transfer of service of the Bright Future Children's Service with Wansley, approves the City of Kwinana to retain the Muditch Kulunga Playgroup service, authorise the CEO to provide adequate notice of the transfer of Bright Futures daycare service to the Department of Education, Skills and Employment for the date from the date negotiated with Wansley, and authorise the CEO to negotiate a maximum term 2-year lease arrangement with Wansley for the property of 26 Bolton Way, Aurelia. Thank you. So there are no other items to deal with, so I thank you all for your attendance and I close the meeting at 6:22. Thank you.